Right, so today I'm going to actually look at book that was written 3 years ago. I think it's 3 years ago. It's top of the stack. Python coding, 2022. So in 2025, we've got the advent of AI. So I now have the advantage of, I guess, somewhere in here, if I create a new module, def. Let's see. Yeah, it does. Well, there we go. A little bit of AI. This is a function. Anyway, I'm going to read through the book and just see how AI has improved. It's made dramatic advances over time. So we shall just go to it, I guess. The actual book is here. So Python programming, top of the stack. So you can get it. I can zoom in. Plus. I'll stick the link, I guess, in the profile of this like live chat. In fact, I'll stick it later. They'll be there. Due to its large size, this book may take longer to download. Okay, that's interesting. I don't think it would take any longer than any other book. Erasing C++ would be interesting as well. There's thousands of great books, but let's just see what the new AI models can do and how they rank relative to what existed only a few years ago. So yeah, I migrate back here and I open up this file. It's a PDF version. I have got the document, the actual original document, which is here, this top of the stack one. That's the title of the book. But I think it'll probably be cleaner for the purpose of going through it to look at a PDF file. So let's have a look. And maybe we'll try and replicate some of this stuff in the new, I guess, a newer version of Python. I don't even know what version of Python was around at the time, but we'll see. It was probably like something like 3.7, I think. So now we're approaching 3.14. So yeah, how to improve your ranking and become a better programmer. First of all, this was related to a website called, well, it still exists. I'm talking like it's a legacy website. It exists, but it's kind of like dead. Stack Overflow. There we go. Right, which used to be a very popular website where people would go and ask questions and answer questions, but ever since the advent of AI, that's kind of like overtaken it, and rather than getting a really facetious answer, you get, and I actually did a video on that, like kind of like the death of Stack Overflow. Instead of getting a really facetious answer from the community and you have to wait hours and somebody tells you that you're an idiot and you don't understand it and all of this, or you get like idiotic questions and a whole bunch of stuff like that. AI answers your things very seamlessly, in microseconds, well not microseconds, but in a few seconds, and then says, "Thank you very much, sir. Can I help you anymore?" So yeah, there's that. Anyway, while I'm here, I just noticed I've got 27 new reputation badges. TDM. So somebody doesn't like this answer. That would wind me up, I guess. But let's see. TQDM with logger on separate lines. Interesting. Yep. You get these down reviews with no comments, so that would be one of the, I guess, like the bear bugs that people would have with this kind of stuff. TDM with logger on separate lines. So yeah, the answer is I prefer to avoid TQDM. This is just a module where like you get a progress bar. So someone's asking about a progress bar, and I wrote a nice little bit of code where I can get a progress bar without having to import a module. And like, I don't know, quite a few people I know prefer to, if you can avoid importing a module, then avoid importing the module. Sometimes modules are very helpful and you should use them. Other times, does it add that much functionality? Really good. And the reason why I kind of wanted to avoid TDQM is I could do nicer things by writing a logger myself. But anyway, so I've got something like, I wasn't happy with this kind of format and I wanted this. And this little piece of code does it. Two people don't like it. No particular reason why. I would assume that maybe it's something like you haven't answered the original question, but there was no other answers, and yeah, this is kind of like the person doing this could have used it. They certainly get the halfway there, which they asked for, because I just noticed that that's kind of like what they're asking for. So you get it. You get halfway there and you get a finished process, and you get more control because you actually get to look inside your loop of stuff that you're doing and do whatever you want. So you can make these dots into other things and so forth, and put stars in there and all the rest of it for progress and other updates. Anyway, that's that. What else was on there actually? So someone like this, I don't even know what that is. This isn't part of the book though, but I have a little quick browse since it's there. Got an upvote. Why do you get an upvote? Text wrap module has a method called right. Interesting. New user needs help. We think you would be a great fit to help a user who is stuck. Are you interested in learning more? Maybe. Someone has requested your help. Okay, so Stack Overflow, maybe it's upgraded itself or migrated itself in the advent of AI. How can I create a common countdown timer using Python tk-enter? I'm writing on a simple GUI application in Python using tk-enter. I want to implement a countdown timer that starts from a specific time, usually 1 minute, and counts down to 0. The timer should display the remaining time enabled. Now, I mean, I could put yes, I can help. So, copy all of that and hit yes, I can help. We're trying out a new feature. We're testing this new feature to learn what works best for you. Would you be interested in helping others with a feature like this? Yeah, sure. I don't know. Unsure. Is there anything else you would like to share or clarify? Feel free to add it here. Does this add subtract question mark? There you go. Say you put an answer down and somebody downvoted it. Say you put a good answer down and somebody downvoted it, it will take off your Stack Overflow thing. Not that the Stack Overflow score matters anymore. Anyway, there we go. What's this other one? VS Code to customize the window border. Oh god, this was a real annoyance. And actually, like, I think quite a few people like this answer. Basically, like, with all of the modern things, I guess you can see it here. If I shrink it a bit so it's inside of the window. In fact, I want a big fat border, like a bit thicker border, but this was borderless before, this little purple bit here. So you can't see the edges, and I've got black on black, and you can't see where like your editor begins and ends and so forth. That's more function of, I don't know, this modern look, where I guess the modern look's just got a tiny bit too modern. So yeah, I was trying to find it. I'd asked a question. I think someone else asked a question. I'd asked a question, and then in the end, I discovered an answer. So I'm glad people like it. I still use VS Code, so it was important to get this answer. Anyway, he concludes with that to get a border on the VS Code. I don't do many customizations at all. Only the ones that are like, oh god, it's really annoying you. So VS Code out of the box comes quite nice. There we go. In a nomination train, right? Okay. Moderator election. I don't think I want to be a moderator now. At one point in time, I was interested in being a moderator. never got to be a moderator. You have to have more. Well, here you've got to have more than 3,000 reputation. So I make it there. Nominees are required an introduction to describe why they might be good in the community. Blah 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 blah. The top 30 nominees, you become a moderator. I don't know, a moderator of a site that's dying. Well, certainly not growing. It's been overtaken. Let's look at AI instead. It's far more productive. So what's this last one here? Another person like this. Desired answer. Yeah, okay, fine. So yeah, people like the answer. Great. Yeah. Anyway, so this book here, Ping, top of the stack, it actually refers to how to get your score higher, your ranking. So this number here, this 5904, how do you get that higher on Stack Overflow? I've got a few questions about answering them well. It's not really that, it's actually a book for coding in Python. So anyway, that's what it is. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of contributors, to be fair. It's kind of like, it's, all of these things are done by all of us, and all of the videos and tutorials and stuff, they're people we've all been taught out of university or school, self-taught, using programming, coding, but the community learns from each other, so it's kind of like a collective knowledge, or a collective negative knowledge where we sort of guide each other the wrong way. So, but hopefully the net is a positive knowledge, like a positive game where we're always trying to optimize and do things better. The language has grown and so forth. About me, fantastic. Imperial College. That's going back in recent years. Focus. Okay, fine, and some acknowledgements. There we go. Table of contents, introduction. I guess in a way it would be better to go to the original document. The only reason I don't want to go to the original document is that if I ping it off for a second, if I open up the original document, it will update this date, and maybe I should make a copy of the document to talk about. So I wonder if I can do that. And then delete the copy of the document. I could do that. Let's just see how this goes anyway. I quite like having it in its oldest state, although I'm sure there's a way of on Google Docs of getting a document, getting the history, the previous date of the history of the document. Anyway, that was about the author, acknowledgements, fantastic, introduction. So, okay, in the introduction, okay, they're about table of contents. A brief introduction to Python, so background, some nomenclature and some structure. Nomenclature just means like the symbols and words that are used in a given field. So Python has its own specific things. It's not related only to computing. It applies for every kind of like field that's possible. And structure, right? What is a stack? So I've kind of like answered that before. That Stack Overflow is a stack. What is Stack Overflow? So you saw the website. The website's over here, and there's tons of it. You can post and answer questions on it. You won't be doing that. You will be using AIs all over, left, right, and centre. I find I've got several of these AI models. Here's Google Bard. The popular one, I guess, is ChatGPT. I'm sure other things will come about. Actually, I should put on DeepSeek. DeepSeek's the Chinese one. I've been using it at work a lot. I did like this one, which was Claude AI. Accept cookies, continue, signing you in. Boom. You do continue. Try Claude 4. Are they trying to tell me something? Or okay, there we go. Claude 4. So Claude, the new models come out all the time. So here's another one anyway. So that's Claude. There's tons of them. It's even in the search bar. So if I put in Gemini, this is a nice little trick. Do it at Gemini. What is Python? Question mark. There we go. So I've got it you've got it in your browser. You have got it in our browser. It's courtesy of Google. Just a second. It's actually quite slow considering Don't know why Chinese has come up on it as well. Interesting. This response is helpful. Right, there we go. And I can start my conversations and so forth, and you can see a lot of the stuff, but I'm not going to use Gemini yet. Now we'll use other things. Let's get started. The code, the editor, the basic Python. Okay, let's just fly through this as fast as we possibly can, because there's a good 300 pages, 400 pages nearly, brief intro to Python. Yeah, it's open source and free to use, right? I will highlight this. Why don't we zoom in? There we go. Make it clear. Right. I should highlight this too. It lets you work quickly and integrate with systems more effectively, right? So Python is not the fastest language, but it's a damn easy, quick, simple language to use. It works straight off the desktop. It's interpreted, so all you have to do is go to Python, the Python website, download it, and it's there for you. And then you can literally run it on any editor. A very nice editor is VS Code. I've always used that one because it's a very, very lightweight editor, but you could use other ones. There's things like PyCharm and other things that I use. They're also quite good. You see them on a lot of people's videos. But anyway, it's open source and free to use for anybody that has a computer and wants to learn or use it, do things with it, whatever you want to do, scrape the web, other stuff. I am going to do a little video at some point of, I wonder if I've actually even got it up. Well, I think I've got it up somewhere in here, which is I could open it up. How do I do it? Over here, open Data Wrangler. Just a bunch of data really that I want to analyze, and that's data that comes from IG Index, which is a bunch of it's all of the transaction history basically. So it's a bunch of transaction history, dividends and purchases and sales and so forth, but it comes in a very messy real world format. The company IG Index has done a really, really bad job to providing data for their customers compared to other providers that give you a nice homogeneous, like clean, whatever, with tickers and symbols and things. IG Index doesn't. They do something that is actually quite ugly. So if I go in there, you get all of these sort of long, whatever it is, long strings to describe your things, and there's no tickers or symbols. You can't collate them. So that's a nice task that Python does. I'll be doing that at some point in time. I don't know if there'll be time for doing it in this video, but I'll be doing it at some point in time. Anyway, it's high level, interpreted, and so forth. Now, what does high level mean? It just means it's easy for humans to read, so we like that. Interpreted, it runs as it is written, so that's kind of like, I probably shouldn't be doing it in a notebook, maybe in it's almost like the best example is to do what I might call a not great example, like a scripting thing. So this is enough. Let me just create a new module somewhere here. I don't know where. I'm going to create a module and maybe delete the module. You can see hundreds and hundreds of testings I've done. Hello world, next to the hello world. If I right click, open with, if I do something there, just do add file, that's going to add it in the lowest level. So example file.py, there we go, and I will just zoom in, I'll get rid of the sidebar because we don't need to be seeing that. And well, the first thing that we see actually, so like this is even before, I could have never have done this 3 years ago. It didn't exist, all of this stuff, which is at the top, open chat, control I to open the chat, select the language, control N, fill with a template to get started and so forth, right? I'm just going to do a script, right? And just to get back to the point, is it runs as it is written. So I'm going to do a simple script, which is something like print hello. Well, there we go. Okay, we get some of the stuff that's going in. I'm going to say in fact, I'll say x equals 10, and then print Okay, there we go. So it's going to do that, and then we're going to say x equals 20, and then there we go. It's done some great guesses. We can see what's happening here, right? I was going to call it IntelliSense. The AI is giving you doing some guesses, and these guesses are quite good. It's sort of like filling out the examples for me, so I don't need to do a lot of that. But I guess the piece is that basically what happens is we sequentially run our code from top to bottom. X, so we just write this command. It's going to print hello world. It's going to print it down in here when I do run it. Then it's going to assign the value of 10 to X. We'll get through on that as well, the value of X, and then it's going to print out that statement. Then we're going to change X to 20 and so forth. And Python just it literally just runs from the top to the bottom. Now this is in its simplest basic format. There's lots of other things, but that's in summary what. Let's get rid of all of that and actually hit the run button, or F5. Let's just run it. We'll see it running down at the bottom. There we go. Hello world. The value of X is 10. The value of X is now 20. So, and that is all that it runs as it is written, right? So that's what interpreted means. High level means it's easy to understand. Print hello world. I don't know if it could be any easier than that. X equals 10. We don't even have to put like let x equals 10 or set x equals 10 or x integer x equals 10. We don't have to do any of this stuff. I mean, you could type in integer. Like Python allows for really basic syntax if you want it. So you can do like really basic things. So it's high level, it's interpreted. General purpose, it's used for a variety of cases. I did kind of like showcase, I guess, or one example, which was somewhere in there where I pulled up Data Wrangler. You know, I can wrangle some data. Now, it says it's general purpose used for a variety of cases. Like you can use it for web-based stuff. I think JavaScript is probably better for web-based stuff. But you can do it like lots of scraping and other things like that. So it's very much a glue language, so that makes it interpreted. We use it a ton on the trading desk. You know, the traders use Python. It's not used in other parts of the stack. It's a great data science language, and that's one of the reasons why it's become one of the most popular languages again. The rest of the stack, actually, we use Java. It's a faster language, and it's compiled, so it's quicker. Compiled languages tend to be quicker than interpreted languages for reasons that we may or may not go into. And here's a big thing: indentation. It uses indents instead of curly braces. So I'm going to say the majority of the languages are curly brace languages. I do like curly brace languages. I find them quite nice. And initially it was hard to get used to the syntax of Python. Some languages have adopted the Python syntax, and some have adopted the curly brace ones, and some have used like a hybrid of both. But indentation in coding has always been valuable, but Python sort of nearly led the way. What do we mean by indentation being valuable? If I go to the example file here and I make a function, so define a function, there we go, and then hit tab on all of that just to get something there. We can see that the contents of the function are indented in there, are indented. So this is part of the function. This is like nested inside the function. And it's separate to things outside of the function. So indentation is used in coding all over the place for lots of languages. Now, the AI might go mental, but you know, in other languages you'd have a curly brace like that, and I don't know about all of that stuff that goes in there. Right, and then you'd have the rest of your code in here that's sort of like inside of the curly brace. So you've got curly brace languages and you've got indented languages. The reasoning behind the indentation it takes time to get used to if you come out of curly brace languages, is for a clean view. It just looks nice when you've written lots and lots of Python code. I wonder if I have anywhere. I mean, I don't know if it is lots and lots of Python code. I have to check this one out. If I zoom out, you could see it on the mini map, but we can see that it's got like this nice, clean looking syntax. I have to find the main scope up here where I can do various different things, and these are all of the different functions, and you can sort of like see the color coding and the function and the indentation all wrapped into one. Makes it visually aesthetic to like a piece of artwork, basically. So it does that, whereas curly brace languages will still deploy the indentation, but they'll put it inside of curly braces. It also doesn't end with any, I guess we saw that in the example file, I just said x equals 10. I didn't have to do semicolon to define the end of a line, which is very common in curly brace languages. So Python just lets you say x equals 10. This is called type inference. It automatically assumes that x is of type integer. So print the type of x, and I'm actually going to put this into a hash. There we go, just so that I can run it on the side. Sometimes it's nice to do that. It's running it in the Python kernel. We can see that x is of type class. This is a type integer. It's been inferred that I didn't tell it was an integer. I never declared x to be an integer, and that comes with pros and it comes with cons. The pro is that it's simplistic and quick and easy and clean to visually use and faster, but the con is that we don't know what x is. X, maybe I wanted x to be a string. We'll get into that. So I might have wanted x to be a string. It's actually, it's interestingly enough, we get this x is a string, right? Like as in the comment. Right, there we go, x is an integer, like, so there's different things about it. I could define it to be an integer like that, or a float. Funnily enough, even if I did, Python has its own features and behaviours that when I run this piece of code, it's still an int, even though I've said x is of type float, right? It's read it as an integer, and the reason why is because it would need a point or a point zero. Either one of the two is sufficient, right? Now all of a sudden with that x is of type class float. So yeah, just bits and bobs. Anyway, we go back. We're using indentation to won't get sidetracked. The language itself was released in the early 90s, and around 10 years later a new version came along, and finally about 8 years after that a new version came along. It's version 3, right? Version 3, this is quite important. Well, it's becoming less and less important, because anyone that starts coding now is not going to touch version 2 at all. In fact, when people say Python, for sure, 100% nearly, you're talking about Python version 3.0. You are never talking about version 2. Most notable thing, if you ever had to migrate from version 2 to version 3, is the fact that Hello World has brackets around it. So it's like a function rather than print Hello World. Now, I don't know, you might say I actually prefer it this way. I kind of like, in a way, I sort of like do prefer the print Hello World. I'm not sure. People will argue about the brackets all day long. I don't know. I came in and put version 3 brackets are fine too. Where the brackets come in useful, I guess, on a print statement, for example, is that you can go multi-line. So my print statement hasn't ended now. What is it on that? Right. I guess. And there is more to say about it. There we go. F something, the value is now x plus 1. I don't know if this is going to, let's have a look. I think that this should be sufficient to work. Yeah, there you go. Although it's written it all on one line, so let's put some /n's to have new lines in there, \n, and I think that will do. Right, there we go. Right, so the brackets serve a purpose. Maybe you could have done that with indentation on the older version, as in without the brackets. But anyway, these brackets kind of tell you where the function's going to begin and where the function ends. So yeah, whatever. That's version 3. You could argue that having these brackets is a bit like having the curly braces. All of a sudden, like, anyway, that's how Python works. When we talk about Python, we talk about Python 3.0. Yep, completely true. Don't know when this book was written still. Well, sorry, what version we were on when we written this book, right? Pythonic code that is written in nomenclature is invariably necessary to go through some of the terms. Okay, fine. Code that is written in Python looks different and similar to other code. There's features that carry over and there's features that's not. Someone who uses a Python programming language a lot, they're called a Pythonista. I guess you've got to be like really, I'm not even what the phrase is, like deep in the community and hate all other languages and only want to use Python. I do pretty much only use Python. Someone told me once, just kind of like, you get all of these educations, it's a mix. Do you like learn lots of languages, or do you pick one and sort of like become really, really good at it? I don't know, it swings and roundabouts. But I've made Python my main language. One of the main reasons why is it's used so much in finance. Now, we use Java a lot in the firm that I'm at. I've never used Java in other firms, but it's used at the firm that I'm at a lot. But if you aren't using Java, you'd use another like lower level language, typically C++ actually, which is just faster than Python. They're compiled. They're strongly typed languages as well. Python's not a strongly typed language. So there's a difference between scripting. So they're better for, and they're typed. You have to declare your types basically. So those more strongly typed languages, it's harder to get the basic errors that you would. However, that's all negated with the modern editors that do a ton of stuff. And I guess again that's where like languages like Python and JavaScript have kind of like dominated, because the problems of old don't exist in the same way as the problems of new. Like a lot of these things have been solved. I mean, I go here, oops, Alt Tab, I go here and you could see, for example, in this piece on Tesla, you've got the color coding and all the rest of it. And if I want to call a function, I could just sort of like begin typing the function, area examples, and it's auto completed with the brackets and everything. And there's also documentation about it, or at least I could put things in there, area examples, and we'll go through it. So like there's tons of stuff that just never existed. That gave the compiled, strongly typed languages a big advantage, because you couldn't do things like, in my example file, x equals 10 and then x equals hello, right, and then you get a runtime error when you kind of like try to run it, because now x is now a string and I can't add one down here. So it worked. I got hello world, the value of x is 10. And then the value, I guess I should have got, where is it, class float. You can only concatenate a string, not an integer, to a string. So you get the value of x is 10, then we got class float, because I printed the type, then I put x equals hello world. Okay, fine. So and this is here. This is a concatenated string. So the error message. The error message. Yeah, sorry. Again, another thing that's very good about these, in the modern editors, is that the error. I've got a big like arrow pointing to the mistake, right, which is over there, this line that's kind of like in bold, I highlighted as well, the value is at, and that's exactly where I expected the error to be thrown. But I discovered this at runtime. I discovered it when I ran it. I never got thrown this error message before in other languages that are compiled and type checked and type hinted and all of that, or not type hinted, but like have their typing correct. It would never permit me to assign X, to create a variable X, which is a float, and then reassign the same variable to be a string. That would be a faux pas, we're not allowed. Python lets you do it. So I've got all of the convenience. It's almost that you get treated, I think the phrase you get treated like an adult. It lets you do it, but it also lets you screw yourself up with it. So yeah. We mentioned the white spacing and the curly braces. There's no semicolons. At first, I mean, to be fair, I used to code in JavaScript, or Node.js at least, and I used to avoid curly braces all over. So my JavaScript looked a lot like Python code. Because when you take out the semicolons, which I will say are ugly, it's almost like I want my line to end where my line ends. So that's the end of my line, that's the end of my line, that's the end of my line, and so forth and so forth and so forth. They're all line ends. I don't feel like I should need to have to put a semicolon after each one of these. It starts looking ugly on the code. Now, in JavaScript, there was reasons why. I mean, there is reasons anyway, but that's to separate the code, and then you can write more code after the semicolon. Python's view is that you continue to, if you want to write more code after this code, you create a new line and put y equals goodbye world, right? So there we go. What you don't do is something like, y equals, goodbye world over here. We try to avoid that. Other languages let you do it. Like, you can do clever things like this in Python, but it's a little bit cleverer, whereas you can say something like x and y equals hello world and goodbye world there. You could do something like that if you really wanted to. That's cleaner syntax. But anyway, the semicolons did mean something, meant end a line. And in JavaScript, I would use it very, very rarely where I really wanted to show the end of line. And there's certain places where you had to use it, but it was very rare. Some of my JavaScript would look very similar to this. Apart from that, there would be some curly braces around functions, basically. The other thing is, I guess, is if you do like an if statement, so something like this in Python, I don't have to, again, put my comment, my block of code inside there. Like, I didn't have to put it all inside curly braces. I was able to do that without the curly braces, and instead of the curly braces, you might have noticed, say colon, and that was sufficient. So that's how it works. And actually, when I take notes and things and I write stuff down, I tend to use a Pythonic way of doing it, which is, I guess, if I do sort of like indentation, my notes, right, I'll put 2 spaces and then some other. Now, you don't need to do that because you're in a text editor, but, other things, right? It's almost like you can see the cleanliness just by writing it and putting in 2 spaces. You could use tabs and things and all that stuff. Anyway, that was a side note. Don't save. There we go. This one I've never really got, but you get used to it, right? I actually prefer the double slash to the hash, but whatever. You've got white space. I put versus indentation, but it's not really versus. It's actually white space versus and indentation versus curly braces and semicolons. And so there was the example of the curly brace language. There we go, int main. So I had to define the return type of my main. If you didn't have a return type, I probably had to put void because it never returned anything. Here we're returning 0, which is an integer. and the double forward slash, that's to do a comment, and then print out hello world, and there was the little semicolon over there to show the end of the statement, and the semicolon over there to show the end of that statement. Whereas Python looks like this, it's nicer, clean. I guess you can say a nicer, cleaner syntax. The reality is, there's not much difference between it. And when you've got a million lines of code and 1.5 million lines of code, I don't know if it makes that much. You're looking in. So there's pros and cons against using it. You'll notice the semicolon. So I mentioned that semicolon line ends of many languages. Oh, that's for many. Yeah. Okay, Python does not have this by design. It's intended to be cleaner. Line end in Python at the end of a line, so it's lines end in Python at the end of a line, so the semicolon becomes unnecessary. Yeah, so we mentioned that. Single line comments. We'll talk about single line comments and multi-line comments. I won't really talk too much about Stack Overflow because useless. Not useless, but I'd rather talk about the AI because that's where we're at. It's more functional. But anyway, there we go. Some extra code, some extra stuff that's given to me out of the box from the AI. Does it? This is simple Python script. It prints hello world and demonstrates variable assignment and type. Don't know whatever that is. Type checking. Now, I'm using a linter. I wonder if my linter works. Is it in here for the linter? Oh, I've got to keep. I'm using a rough linter, so is it Command Shift P, Control Shift P, rough format document? There we go. Right. I was just hoping that it would wrap the text, but I'm using because I'm using rough formatting. It now goes to. I think I can see my line end. I thought the line ends at like 120. I can't remember. I think it was 88 characters that were allowed. So it should have gone to. Well, that's 80. That's the Python line end. I'm referring to this piece here. Python's convention is to finish at 79 or 80 characters. That's because that was the width of what terminals used to be at the time of the creation of Python, and it's other things and so forth, and it's for cleanliness and all of the rest. But the rough linter, I think he uses about 80. I thought he uses 88 lines. I'm quite sure it uses 88 lines of code. That's 90. If it was 88, we could be up to here. But it's used more lines of code. I wonder if comments fall into that. I don't know. But anyway, let's squeeze our stuff. Right, demonstrate variable assignment. It also shows how to concatenate strings and their formats using so blah blah blah. Let's continue. So Stack Overflow, we talked about it. You get rewarded for good answers and punished for bad answers. You get rewarded for good questions. What is a good question? It's a question that had research in it to show that I've tried this and tried that and looked at this and looked at that. So I haven't just asked the same question that's been asked loads and loads of times. If you do, you get negative votes, so you get downvoted because you haven't done anything. And a good question is something I've asked a question that other people are likely to ask, so it kind of pushes the community forwards. Anyway, that's that, and that's the voting scheme and so forth. It keeps users very honest. To be fair, Stack Overflow was a massive website. Who uses Stack Overflow? Anybody who's ever asked a programming question? Well, now everyone who ever wants to ask a programming question is going to go to one of the plethora of AIs. I shall at this point bring up ChatGPT. I guess that's the commonest one, and I've got a Python thing here, so I can automatically ask a question. I don't even have to specify and refer to it as Python anymore. I can just say for loop, and then up to 20. There we go. Let's see what happens. It's going to give me all of the big talk, and it's going to give me the syntax, and I can copy that syntax out and paste it into my code, wherever that is over here. Boom, and it's done it, right? I might want to add a comment, a simple loop that prints numbers from 1 to 20. The AI does so much of this stuff for you now. Like I could have done for, I wonder actually, there we go, for tab, 21, tab, there we go. It's giving me a for loop with an if statement, with some nested an if else statement, determining if I is even a rod. Let's put in a hash comment, check if the number is even or right. Fantastic, well done. There we go, and print the results. Return using the module operator. I mean, you can keep going on with this. So we've got this in place of Stack Overflow and commenting your code and doing other stuff. Maybe you get your best practices out of that, out of Stack Overflow. Although again, I wouldn't even get my best practices from there, get them from Alinta. So yeah. We often Google it and invariably Stack Overflow with its before completeness. Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, if you did Google a question, so I could have Googled like, you know, something like for loop, Python, go and just like that, and you know, got W3 schools, it could be like an example, and work example, and so forth. There was the Python with original docs, you can go to the original documentation. There is Geeks for Geeks. There we go. They've got their version and a bit of a description. All great, by the way. Continue with Darren. You've got speak for lots of stuff and sticks in loads of watches down the side. God knows why. I haven't looked at a watch for 10 years. Yeah, so there's loads of things like that. Tons of videos and things and beginner tutorials and all the rest of it. DigitalOcean. I have seen their site sometimes. Yeah, there we go. Same thing. Right, everyone gives you their version. Read me. So let's just close that up and continue. What is Stack Overflow? Yeah, that's our website. So let's get started. Let's create a Hello World program from scratch. Right. I'm not going to go from scratch though. And here we go. Right. Actually, it's not that long ago then. Python 3.10. 3.10 basically, and the micro version is 6. We're on 3.14. Well, we're on 3.13. In fact, if I go to the website where you can download it, just to show you, so I go Python PYT. I'm just hit. Do that. PYT Python space. Nonsense, welcome to Python, boom, over there, and I just zoomed in a little bit so we can see the latest version is 3.13, the next version is 3.14, it'll be a special version 3.14 because Pi is 3.14159, Python's version 3.14. There we go. Anyway, the beta for it's here, and there's lots of talk about it. In fact, I did a little video, I think, about what's coming up in the next version. Have a little look. There's a few people that do it. Look back in at my videos, and maybe you'll find it somewhere. But anyway, the latest version is this, and you can hit the download button, and it really is as easy as that. Which is downloads. In fact, I don't have to go there. I can just go download like that, and it's automatically downloaded. And I double click and install it, and it just runs it. Right. There it is. Open it up. Drag it over there. Double click on it here and run it. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to delete it because I've already got it run. So you hit delete over there, and that's gone. And yeah, that's basically it on that bit. So you'll download your version of Python. I do like using the latest version all the time. It comes with a little built-in, crappy little built-in editor. I wonder if I've actually got that. Python. I mean, I've got here this IDLE, and it's different, like all of the different versions I've downloaded. So I wonder if that's the latest one. Python 3.13. I wonder if I've got that. Python 3.1 is that run command. I don't even know what that is. See what happens. Ooh, don't know. Python, there we go. Let's just open up this editor, which is probably MFS. Maybe I type in IDLE. I guess my latest version's that 3.12, and it kind of launches this little editor. You can see it's the same as the PDF file, and you can do things like you can do options, I don't know where it is, file use, you can make a new file and so forth, or recent files. Here you go, some stuff, some files. Hello world, there's my hello world. So launch things over there. It's got some syntax highlighting stuff. There's no IntelliSense, there's no nothing. This probably takes you back like a few years. You've got none of the stuff that you would say, well, you've got more than you would have had in an editor, but still, like, it does not come anywhere close to VS Code. So if I was to do something like, I wonder if I do for, well, like, it recognises a colour. If I do tab, it does that, so it picks up some things. Here we go. Yeah, I don't know. It's got some features. I wonder if I define a function, def def hide there, open close, print, tab, return, no, print, try again, print. Now the IntelliSense is not cut, there we go, that's worked with a tab, open brackets, high, quotations, got the, I mean it's done this, the colour thing's nice. Let's see if I can call high there now, so high underscore tab, no, tab, no, escape, underscore, tab, no, it hasn't, like, it doesn't know that it's there. It would work, so if I wrote high under, but you see I have to manually do everything there. If I had the typo or something, it would fail. I could run the hi there thing. I can just hit run, I guess. Run module. Must be so okay. There we go, save and run. There we go. And it's printed hi at the end of it all. After all of that stuff. Anyway, that's kind of like the basic module that's shipped with it, that you could in theory test it or whatever. It comes like that when you've downloaded it. What does IDLE stand for? It stands for Integrated Development and Learning Environment. It's not very good though compared to what's out there. There's PyCharm and it's VS Code. I think they basically dominate the majority of the Python market. In fact, there we go. This survey was done in 2022. I don't know how true it is now. Actually, I do kind of know how true it is now because I googled it a few months ago and it's still about 70%. So VS Code is about 70% of the market. The reason why is VS Code allows you to code in pretty much any language. So that's quite nice. So the idea is rather basic. Mentioned that at the time of writing. Yeah, VS Code was. It works in Windows. It's cross-operating system as well, Linux and Mac. Although Linux, like I ran a version of Linux that didn't work on. So you know, but then Linux, loads of things don't work on. You know, some people are diehards for Linux. Windows by far wins, and there's loads of Mac users, and like, Linux is the third operating system. It's good. It dominates in the. Linux dominates in the server space, but like, you know, personal desktop usage and all the rest, and for the majority of people who are deep coders and stuff, Windows is superior. It just comes and works out of the box. Like, I don't use a printer anymore, but if you wanted to and you had a Windows laptop or something, when you opened up your laptop, immediately it would connect to the printer, the internet, the Wi-Fi, whatever. It sorts you all out and does everything. Whereas with Linux, you have to muck around for like 3 days getting it all to work, and people lose the will to live. I've tried to switch to Linux multiple times. I do like Linux, but yeah, it's Windows. Anyway, VS Code is a Windows thing. Well, at least they've got their Windows thing. You can go to same thing as, so you go here, you download the latest version of Python in downloads, and then you go over here and you put VS Code, right? That was me using it on the Chromebook just to prove actually that I have used it on Linux as well, so on a different operating system. It's okay. Actually, I take that back. On one of the Chromebooks I've used it on, it was fine, and the current one I use it on, it's like crashes and goes really slow every now and again. I mean, it's a lightweight editor. So anyway, you go there, and I always just go straight to the download. I guess you can click on here and download for Windows. Boom, everything works for Windows. There is a download section somewhere, I guess. One of its reasons of its great usage is TypeScript, JavaScript, Python, C#, C++, HTML, Java, JSON, PHP, Markdown, PowerShell, YAML, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff as well, because I know that I have used Java in there. I've used JavaScript, I've used C++, I've used TypeScript. I've used C++, I haven't used C# funny enough in there, although I've used C#. Actually, I take that back, I've even used C# in VS Code. Code anywhere, all the rest of it, which features and so forth. I'm just wondering if on the download, what if I hit that, does it automatically download? No, yeah, so Windows straight away will work. Mac, I'm not a Mac user, but it looks like straight away it pretty much work. When you come to doing Linux, you have to know if you're Debian, Ubuntu, if you're Red Hat, Fedora, which version, RPM, Target, blah, blah, blah. Windows, you just hit this button and you don't have to worry about all the rest, although there are specifics, but they all seem to be the same. But yeah, you just hit the big button here. Linux is 2 big buttons, I guess, and Mac is a big button. So we don't like 2 big buttons, we like 1 big button. But that's how Linux is. So you go here, you download, downloads. The Windows one is straight there, the Mac one is straight there as well. I guess if you hit Mac, it's probably there. I don't know, I'm not a Mac user, I'm a Windows user. So you've got it on Windows, and you've got it on all your operating systems. The Windows one is straight in the face, and the same thing for VS Code. The Windows one is straight in the face. You hit download, and boom, you have VS Code. It literally works like a box. It starts installing loads of stuff to refresh and update itself, and get all of the latest bits and bobs, and then you're off to go and do what you need. So that's that. Right, I could talk forever about editors. I'm not going to. I'm using one here. I can't recommend it. Actually, I have tried using loads of other ones. There was one that came up recently. Okay, it just looked like I was doing this code. Like you did no better. It claimed to have AI built in it, but it was no better. Python basics, right? So with Python installed and a suitable text editor in place, we write our first bit of code and we do the hello world thing, and I did it. I created the file. Well, over there. I could create a file called hello world. I've already done that. So there we go. That's my hello world file, and it print hello world. There's 1 line of code, and that's hello world. So there we go. The new version, if I was writing it, it'd be something like you open up your file, so you create your file, and I wonder if I do this from the start, right? Let's see, delete, right? So you open up your file in the new version, and you get all of this stuff at the top, which I would never have got. And you start doing some AI shit with it. Instead of doing print hello world, you do something like, well, I might still do print hello world. Print. Let's see what it does. There we go. I do print HE, and then it guesses the rest for hello world. So there we go. And that's it. It's as simple as that. And that's, by the way, right, that's one reason why I do use Python. It's just easy to run on every single PC. I really want to use C++. It's a faster language. It's got loads of advantages, but it's such a ball ache to get it working. And also, I don't like the fact that when I do write something, and this is one of the big advantages of scripting languages, they're faster to create things in. I haven't even done the notebook thing, although I did do the interpreter bit before. Right, which is that. I don't have to compile it. I just do that and it runs. Right, it's compiled. That's what it meant by being interpreted. My Hello World came out. That's it. Where C++, I'd have to compile it and then run it. Now you can compile and run, I think, straight away. So there are things that can do that. But it's like you can always build little snippets. So I can make another little block of code, and run that separately and do I don't know, def main will do this main testing purposes, and then something like I'll call it main function main. Right. So there we go, and I can run that, and then I can run that little snippet, and I run it separately. And it's printed out this little line over there, it's printed out over here. Fantastic. So it gives you this fast prototyping. Now I should have done, because this is really, I can't even help not doing that, but if _name equals main, it's got snippets as well, the main guard idiom, then run main, right? Main still does it, it's the same thing. We haven't gone into what the differences are exactly, but yeah, it's there. So let's go back. So you can run your code, right? They're verify operating download, there's color schemes and so forth. I use the default pretty much of everything, and the reason why is when you go install it elsewhere, I use the minimum amount that I can use so that I can recreate everything in another environment. VS Code does run. It does run on the web as well. The experience is still better in the editor on the desktop, and that means that if you went to another laptop or something, you wouldn't be able to do that. Now there is VS Code for the web. I think VS Code. Well, I can't remember what it is. Web, right? Something like, yeah, it's this here. No, it's not. Oh yeah, no. Back. Yeah, this one here, I think. Well, I get the same VS Code environment, and there's lots of things you can do, but then I think there's some limitation, at least when I was using it. So you've got Visual Studio Code, the tab-based version of it, rather than the desktop-based version over here. There were some limitations when I last attempted it, but I attempted to use it when it first came out, and when things first come out, they're a bit rubbish, so maybe it's a lot better. You might be able to do all your VS Code stuff in the browser, basically. So that's a nice little thing to know, whatever. I don't know if that existed when I was writing the book or not, though. I can't remember. So there's tons of support material, yeah. But you should go through it's helpful to go through a book, right? And the reason why, even though you've got a million things on the web, right? The reason why is because the book's got a structure, basically. So, you kind of won't miss any pieces out. Now, you could get a lot of structure straight off of the web as well. So I could go something like, let me open up. I don't know which AI I should open up now. There's so many different ones. I'll go into Bard for Python list 12 main topics. A dozen main topics. I could create my own version for coding stuff. There we go, and it's going to go and pull it from somewhere, and how so introduction to lists. Now I wouldn't start with lists, right? List operations, list slicing, iterating through lists, that's a bit of an odd one. But there's other places where you could get better. You know, that's a reason for getting the book. Go get the book. The book's going to start right from the beginnings, and go through all of the pieces. So, what page are we on now? 26 over there. Right, outside of, if I scroll down and down and down and down and down, outside of the table of contents, you get a little bit of background nomenclature and things. We don't care about the stack so much, but you get the coder and you downloading Python code, downloading the editor, creating a hello world thing, what's available. Then you go to things like comments, data types. It's much more formalistic doing it from, you know, something that's structured. That's all. It just helps you rather than a scattergun approach. I'm actually a tiny bit surprised that the AI here kind of let that down. I could write it more basic. List. Maybe because I wrote the word list, it's talking about list. Yeah, okay, so it's because I've used the word list. So let's start a new chat. New chat. Create a short learning course of topics of 12 topics for new program coders, because I can't bother to write programs. Boom, right. Okay, so it's got the getting started, like what is Python, why learn Python, your first programming languages, the classic hello world, comments, there we go. So now it's a bit more formalistic, so it's looking a bit more like the book. Still, go get the book, support me, love it. Over there, top of the stack. But yeah, let's go back. I think it was page 26, wasn't it? So I'll go down a bit. We did the hello world. I keep going. Yeah. Right, yeah. Right, loads of support materials being written on most languages, for the most part, are relatively simple to pick up. Yeah, a bit like a foreign language. Okay, fine, yeah. I went from basic to Fortran, I think. Well, I'm quite sure I started with basic for short, because it was only that. Fortran, which is formula translation. Great language, actually. Then to C. And then to C++. I didn't even know what the difference was between C and C++. But C++ now, I can sort of say is like C with classes. That's kind of like the key difference. There's other things, but right, there's that. And then I went to Visual Basic, then to JavaScript, then to Node.js. Finally, I'm along with Python. And I've touched other languages. I've had to read C# code and debug it, PHP, because it's all over the web, or it used to be all over the web. But most of these languages are pretty much the same. Right? They do the same things generically. I have to be careful about saying that they're the same, because the big question is, if they're all the same, then why use one over the other? They have lots of similarities that carry over, but their use cases are slightly different. So Python's good for prototyping, whereas C++ is good for speed. Python's good for data science. C++ will be like the underlyings of the data science, sort of like their arrays and things. So like Python will use NumPy, but NumPy is written in C++. That's kind of like the thing. Anyway, we've got what a single line comment is. I didn't put a block comment in, but the funny thing is if I was doing this again anyway, like you can always nearly see on this, which is a bit annoying, right? I want to give you an example of a block comment. So I want to do something like Applications. There we go. Right. Navigating around it, the AI is prompting you left, right, and sometimes it gets a bit annoying, right? There we go. But anyway, this is an example for testing purposes. It contains various mathematical examples that can be used to demonstrate functionality. Actually, what I wanted to say is this. So let's just change this. This is an example of a block comment. Full stop, return. Block comments go over many lines compared to single line comments which go over one. Finally, the AI is kicking in. This is useful for finding. There we go. Right, block comments can use string logic and so forth. Single line comments, on the other hand, do that and so forth. There we go. Right, that's what a block comment is. It's also part of a doc string though. So if I do this, which is quote quote quote, the main entry point for the code. There we go. But I could be doing other things, right? So I could make another function. So def add A and B, function to add two numbers, and then I go here and it's got, there you go, it does a lot of that for me, and it returns something there. There we go. So the AI has done a ton of things, right? But anyway, point being that these block comments, all I have to do is like, I mean, it's great, isn't it? I'll leave that piece over there. I wonder when I do Control S, it didn't like tidy it up actually. I was expecting the rough linter to Control Shift P. Let me see if the rough thing, yeah, it has, it's formatted the document. I didn't quite catch what the formatting was. I don't know if it formatted any of this. Now, yeah, I might, the AI version of all of this, right? So I've got the block comment. I told you a block comment is a single line comment. I guess some of this stuff may be obvious, maybe not obvious, I don't know. But for a first time, you sort of need to know this. Then we got like all of our different types, our data types. So there's 5 main types: string, integer, bool, float, and none. I'd still need to describe that. You need to know that, like in any, so every language is sort of has its fundamental data types. I want to throw in typing thing because it sort of like annoys me here. But A is of type like float, and B is of type like float, right? And then I wouldn't need, in a way, this signature. But once when I hover over this, we sort of like get like this nice description, right? This is called the function signature. I'm told that, you know, this one, my first input variable is A and it's of type float, and my second input variable is B and it's also of type float, and that this function returns something that is of type float, and I can see here my args and what it returns and so forth. So it's like nice and descriptive. And when I go here like add like that, and put the, well, straight away, like at the top corner here, I can see like what the args are, and in the first number, and so like I've got, it's in bold, and it's done this, and it's done that. Like it knows a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's quite nice and clean, I guess, is the point of it. And we never used to have any of that. So like all of these mistakes just kind of like, you don't get these mistakes. The scripting languages don't have the mistake rate that you would get, that you used to get without all of these type hints and helps and lintings and all the other stuff that you get in there. If I was to eliminate a lot of this, right, because it's really not necessary, it's only necessary to sort of like just say add 2 numbers. If I put some spaces here, because I like to do that, this is one thing that the rough linter does that I don't like. Control Shift P and then do the rough format document. If you just look at the gap over here, I like to leave some white space. It doesn't do that because rough formatting does that. So like maybe I can go and edit the formatter. I live with it. That's what it does. Anyway, but what we do have is if I go back over there, I can see my function without having to have done like written any comments in now. So the doc string was useful for toString. I called it a doc string. Sorry, this block comment here is useful because you can write a whole bunch of stuff. Inside a function, it's called like a doc string. It literally describes what the function is, and it's used. It can be used outside of Python for the documentation. The things actually take these functions, and if you've commented it and it will use your comments to write the documentations. I'll go into all of the rest later. If you define your function, not define, but if you type in your functions, so I could still pass a as an integer or something that's not a float, but if you type into it, it avoids making mistakes. Now some people type in everywhere, and I've kind of like started to because it's almost like, you know, that example is put a equals 10. That was okay for very short things, but like when the code becomes big, it really becomes annoying. And I'd rather say sometimes a is of type integer, right, which is 10, right, and it's kind of like telling the user like what you're supposed to be, what x was supposed to be, and then if I do Control Z and then I do put something like x equals hello world, I was thinking, I wonder if Control Shift P rough format document, no, on its own didn't do it. But I was expecting to get like an error. It's expecting an integer there, but like I was expecting the linter because the good linters pick this up. That X should be of type integer. Now Python's just let me do this. It's let me overwrite the value. So I normally have got this like squiggly underscore. Maybe I'll get it some other way. Control S. No, I still didn't get it. I still got the permission. So I was expecting this to throw me an error. So it's almost like I'm relying on the editor to tell me that that's an error case. And because it didn't, that's a classic example, Control Z, of where an interpreted language would have said, no, you can't have that. It fails at this point. I won't compile it. Python's letting me do it. Like it's not flagging me a warning. I didn't know anywhere to not do that. Which is interesting because for sure maybe the rough linter's overwriting the other linter, the standard linter that I use, and doesn't pick it. I don't know, but it does highlight that as a thing. But anyway, you've got different types: strings, integers, floats, bools, and nuns. Boolean is basically like, so Python never had booleans before. It just used ones and zeros because a 1 and a 0. 1 is true and a 0 is false. So booleans were added. I can't remember what version, but they were added. A float, right? So Python's numbering is relatively simple. I think the simplest is JavaScript. I quite like that because you just say something is a number. Whereas Python, you're either an integer or a float, and they're interchangeable. But again, it's kind of like syntaxically whatever. Anyway, Python's also got this none thing. JavaScript, I think, what's the equivalent? You know, I'll actually write that in here. What is the Java to none? Question mark. Boom. Null, that's what it is, yeah, of course. And I think null is in other languages too, or undefined, right? So Python uses this none thing. So if I was to have something like, I don't even define x. I wonder if I can say x equals none. So the first thing is I won't define it, right? So I'll just say print x oops, that should throw me an error. That will throw me an error. In fact, like I'm getting this underscore here, undefined name. So it's picked up in the rough linter. It's also picked up in pylons. So it's not defined. So I know it's going to throw me an error before. So I can't even get to this point of errorness, if that makes sense. And like you can see it in the mini map as well. It won't let me get the error there. But I wonder if I go here and put x equals none. There we go, it's allowed now. Let's see if it prints what it prints. The first line should be none, I guess. Yeah, oh, well, it's run this block of code if double underscore name equals main. Why it didn't write the hello world first? Because it should have written print x. No, it did. That's right. So it does hello world, and then it prints x, and x is none. So there we go. And if I print the type of x, print type of x, right? And again, we get this none type. So Python uses none rather than null or something in another language. But again, we can see this sort of like the crossovers between the languages. Anyway, a string is that it's contained in these little quotation marks. It's either single quotes or double quotes, interchangeable. Maybe at some point they won't be. An integer is this. A float has a point or 0.5, like that. The booleans, you have to start the keywords start with capital letters, true and false at least. They start with capitals. In other languages, they're lowercase. Just like nomenclature, just learn that stuff. And again, none starts with a capital. So if I do x equals none, like in another language, it's not recognized. Right, hover over it. Undefined name, none. Right, none is not a Python keyword, but a capital none is a Python keyword, and I guess the capital is to sort of like stop some of these errors that might come about. So there was that. Let's continue. So variables. Right, yeah. So we go on to variables, right? Typically, you want to name your variables. There's videos and videos on this. So typically, you want to name your variables and give them proper names. That may be a bit more descriptive. Now, my underscore string isn't going to add any value in particular because we know that it's a string. But I might want to name something, and there's great examples of like naming. It's very easy for me to put x equals none here in a little tiny little script, and we sort of like know all of our stuff. Or if I had points in space, it's like x and y. Is y is 10 and x is like 1. Right. That does a cap. Oh, have I got my caps lock on here? I do. Right. And then sort of like the print, right, the coordinate or f, the coordinates. Oh, there we go. Right. We know that x and y now are coordinates, right? But this was a tiny little script piece of code. But if I was doing like more than that, I had like 200 lines of code. Maybe an x and y represented like other things, and it wouldn't all of a sudden x and y wouldn't be good anymore, and I'd sort of like want like position x and position y, because I might have something like this, because then I had another x and y which was velocity x and y, so velocity in the x direction and velocity in the y direction. Like, that's a bit more descriptive. So I couldn't get away with just x and y, but then I could have done something like px and py, meaning position x and position y, and vx and vy, but we can see that we might start getting lost in stuff. You know, maybe I could sort of like, right, that's the position x. I could do things like that, and that is the position y, and that is the velocity x. Funny enough, like if the IntelliSense is doing a lot of stuff, maybe if the IntelliSense picks it up, it's an allowable variable. How about that for a new rule, like a new AI rule? If the IntelliSense knows it, then it's good enough. I'll change that to px and py. There we go, fantastic. And then all of a sudden, boom, it won't scale. It's sort of like maybe nice. But that's more like it's a choice thing, but there is kind of like a semi-convention on choice, or I guess more than a semi-convention. There is, like, you know, people that will pick you up on like well-named or badly named variables. Now, some people will say, you know, you could go to town with this, like position in space x, position in space y. Right now, all of a sudden, your variables might just be getting a little bit too long, because if go position in space y, because if I wanted to like add these two things up, then if I wanted to add these two things up, then it become very, very long. You know, yeah, all of a sudden, total distance, something like this, right? Where it is the position in space x plus a position in space y. Maybe I want to take the sum of the squares, square root of the sum of the squares. So square that, and then square that, and then put this inside brackets, because I want to take the square root of this. So like maybe even so like to the power of half, right? Something like that. All of a sudden, you know, this line is getting to be like a long line. Control minus. If I wanted to start doing more stuff, I've made my variables too long. So yeah, there's that. We'll flip over to more stuff in one sec. So let's migrate over. We've got all of that. Let's get rid of this. Boom, delete. And yeah, that's it. Yeah, variables. Part of it, Python works slightly differently, right? Actually, a lot of languages, when I did this and I said x equals 10, I think like earlier at least I did mention it, that 10 is assigned to the value of x. It's kind of the way that it's said. So it's not really equals in the like a logical equals. In fact, you know, in the language there is, you know, when you're doing checking, if something is if x equals 10, right? We see here we use this double equals. That's when we're checking if something is equal to. Here, this is actually called the assignment operator. We've got this little piece of memory, and then we've got this value 10, and then we're assigning 10 like into this little bucket of memory, basically. Python does something I think slightly different, which is it points its memory to the value of 10. And you can do things with the memory space and check, like go make sure that I say it the right way. Wonder if I mention it. I probably do. The coder doesn't have to declare a type. Okay, fine. I wanted to talk about the. I do have the camel case and a Pascal case and so forth. Python uses snake case. You notice me putting underscores, it had snake case in there. It doesn't allow characters in the front, and so forth. I wonder if it goes in here, but there is something about the memory. Python is quite clever with how it uses memory, and that's one of the big advantages. It's an advantage and disadvantage. It makes things a tad slower, but it makes it a bit more convenient. So like allocates and deallocates memory. It does like something called reference counting. So like where I did have like x equals 10 here, I don't have to deallocate the memory. If it's not used like later on in the code or whatever, like x can just be basically thrown out. But one thing that we can do is like afterwards you can say x equals like 20, and there is a way of, I've got to try and think about it, getting the memory location. Let's just do that, like look it up. Memory location of a variable in Python. Right, so okay, it does all of that stuff. Oh yeah, ID, that's the thing. So like take it out and select print property, but print the ID of X over there. I wonder, it's over here I think. So print the ID of X again over there. I won't do this thing here because that's not part of it. Right, this will print the ID of X after it has changed. This is a single line comment. Right, so that's there. Right. I wonder if this is sufficient to show it, but this is what this ID thing does. I will not run any of these bits because right, I'm not going to run the if name equals main thing. I'm just going to comment it out and just run the code. Right. Oh, I run a block of code. Let's run this block of code. Right. We can see here that they have two different IDs. And the reason they have two different IDs is because they are two different numbers. So X is being pointed to the number. It's almost like I've overwritten it. So X was pointing to the number 10. So I think it gets drawn like this, basically, that X is assigned to, like, so this number goes into the memory space and X points to 10, and that's got like some sort of memory space, and its memory space is this top one, right? And then like it runs this next piece of code and literally 20 lives somewhere else, right? So it gets this piece of memory space then gets deallocated and it gets reallocated over there. It's now pointing to different bits. So it's done like this reference counting. The first version of X is not used and the second version is. So like, it does this clever stuff under the hood. With other languages, you have to do memory management, you have to malloc and allocate memory and deallocate memory. It makes things faster and more efficient, you have more control over it, but it costs you in terms of like, you have to think about all of that stuff. Where Python gives all of this memory referencing and allocating, like you don't have to think about that, you can just get on with your mathematics. So, that's one of its big advantages. Anyway, I think, I don't know how long this thing's been going on for, but probably an hour. So I might kill it. If you found this like partly useful, at least a start, then like, subscribe, follow, all the rest of it. I'm going to Control Save. I'm going to go to the example thing. I'm going to reveal a file explorer because I'm probably going to delete this function, this little tab, because I don't need it. You can see the black on the back thing. It's like, it gets like, there's advantages and things, and it's cleaner and better for the eye. But like, if you didn't have a border around this thing, you wouldn't even know where it is. Anyway, if you do like it, do the like, follow, subscribe. in this particular case, go get the book, because I don't know, you'll have a book and then you'll have supported the channel, so fantastic. I'll stick the link of the book, which is in there, but you can just search for it. Python Programming, Top of the Stack, Kindle edition. There we go. Do some really cool things. I kind of wanted to go through, I guess, and to show the difference between the AI and not the AI. I did. This was a good piece. This was a great piece of block of code, or example of what you can do. How you can run an election in a just basically off of your laptop, basically, and do 65 million processes. I think I did that, and you do that in a few seconds or something. Just showing the power of programming. You can do it faster in other languages, but it's kind of already sufficient in a high level language. But anyway, if you like this, do a like, follow, subscribe, and all the rest of it. Go do the purchase of the book, follow all the other stuff. If you've got any comments, definitely put the comments on. If I ramble too much, tough luck. And comments are quite good. If there are bits where it's not good in certain places or something, or you feel it needs to be improved, or if you've got questions, put it on there. And that'll be it. I'm going to stop streaming. I'm going to sign off.